Graveyard Hill, written and narrated by Ian King. My cousin Shane and I set up our little tent at the back of the farm, where it was unlikely that anybody would disturb us. Water rolled leisurely past along the creek bed that had been carved into the bronzed clay. It was within earshot of our chosen campsite. Peaceful sounds, cool and fresh aromas rose up to tease our senses. Dainty leaves from the overhanging willows played their mysterious tunes and hid much of the creek from the midsummer sun. This was our secret, hidden paradise for the next few days. Birdsong could be heard from all around us. We were both 10 years old, but I was the oldest because my birthday was in February and his was in July. We had pitched our tent on the flat spot between the briar bush, which had been known to rake its thorns over any careless bypasser. Ouch! And the pit above, where the tractor had dragged a few dead cows into it over the years and one beautiful horse named Princess. But they all rested in peace. Fortunately for us, nothing had found its final destination here in recent weeks. Phew, that would stink. We had named it Graveyard Hill. It was nice and flat there, mostly, and hidden away amongst the wild flowers speckling the hillside, purple and yellow, and some even red. They were pretty paint-brushed blotches among the sun-bleached bones that were scattered higgledy-piggledy around. It was a sort of special place for the local residents, the dead centre of our farm. Well, that's what we would call it in the Jap anyway. Earlier on, Shane and I had caught some eels from down at the dam, not too far from here. We had made fishing rods fit for the purpose out of some simple tea tree branches and nylon that we found in Dad's shed. We chucked on some fishing hooks we'd found and some old nuts for weights. That was all we needed. On the farm we used whatever we could find. It's called Kiwi ingenuity. We were going to cook them over our fire on a spit with some number 8 wire and Y sticks selected from broken branches. We'd poked them into the ground to make it all ready for holding up the eels above the roasting flames. The river sheer bulged with fresh peppery watercress right outside our door, so it was a full-course meal. Veggies and meat. Oh, but we cheated on the dessert as we had bought some rice pudding in a can. Yum. Shane, get some watercress. I'll get the eels ready, okay? Did you bring the pot? Yep, at the back of the tent. Fill her up. Oh, I saw some wild strawberries on the other side of the graveyard too. Can you go get some of those? We're having a feast tonight. Oh yeah, boy. How about a rabbit? Shall we get one of those too? Nah, we'll go out tonight with the 22 and try after dinner. They're easier to hit at twilight, if you can see them, that is. Well, find one, I reckon. There's plenty about. We'll need to bleed it overnight anyway. Rabbit stew tomorrow. The fire was stoked up and still had plenty of hot coals glowing after we'd boiled the cress. I had never spat an eel before, and when the flames tickled at its grey flesh it came alive. Whoa, look at that! I thought we'd killed that hours ago, Shane exclaimed as his eyes near popped out of his head. The eel looked like it was trying to wiggle off the number 8 wire and away from every lick of the flames. It's creepy. Yeah, it's dead all right. See that flame lick there? It's amazing how that part of the body twists away from that point of contact. Must be nerves, I told him. But it's dead. It sure sends my nerves a-twitching just watching it. Ouch! There it goes again. Maybe dead isn't all we think it is. You've heard the stories about life after death, haven't you? And that is when we started the ghost stories. The eel tasted great, and so did everything else. We were nearly popping out of our jeans buttons afterwards. We felt awesome, and that is what you call fun down on the farm. We stoked up the fire, and its roaring flames danced in the cool damp air. The smoke shimmered mysteriously over distant shadows of the rough farmland. Shane started. One cold night in the deep woods of the Waipoa forest, a family was heading home to Opanoni, and their car broke down. Shane really dragged out the tension with his pauses. Only a few weeks earlier had someone been murdered and decapitated there. No one had found the body. His head had been thrown down into the bush near the giant kauri tree, Tani Mahuta, king of the forest. Oh, come on, Shane, boring. Is that the one where the father has his head chopped off? Everyone knows that story. Can't you do any better? Yeah, but you haven't heard what really happened. Oh, get over it. Let me tell you a story from around here. And so it was my turn. I told Shane about the man who was pushed off the mountain just above our farm. I told him how some of the neighbours had heard his cries as he fell and how he was screaming out for Utu, Utu, until his entrails burst all over the bushes below. I had been talking for a few minutes and was really enjoying my graphic descriptions of how his messy ghost, messy because he wasn't really in one piece anymore, you get that after a 300-foot fall, had been seen by many of the locals and was still hunting the district for the person who had pushed him over the edge. He was still crying out, Utu, Utu, as he haunted, I told him. Utu? What does that mean in English? It's revenge man in Maori. Don't you know any Maori? Yeah, I know some. Kia ora, orihanga, and how's it, bro? We both laughed. Anyway, Shane, shut up and let me finish my story. And so I continued. You can always tell when his ghost was around because the wind would suddenly blow real strong. Pork, pork! A lonely sound echoed around our campsite and Shane's eyes flashed wide and uneasy. His head snapped around, trying to find the source of the noise. What the hell was that? Don't you even know what that is? You're a typical city slicker, aren't you? It's just a moorpork, you know, the native owl of New Zealand. He's calling for a mate. Man, you're hopeless. I hope you'd learned something today. Remember your experience after lunch? Oh, shut up, that was unfair. Oh, but it was so funny. I laughed again as I remembered how horrible I'd been to Shane that day while we were driving over the farm on the tractor. He was standing on the carrier, poking out of the back of the tractor as I drove. Now, at one time in the raceway, I decided to see what he would do if I backed him up into an electric fence. I knew he wouldn't get an electric shock as the tyres on the tractor are huge and rubber. They won't allow the fence to earth, hence no shock. However, he didn't know that. Heck, I'd even managed to get him to pee on an electric fence once. Boy, I felt really bad after that, as he leaped and howled in pain and then ran after me to give me a well-deserved knuckle sandwich. It's hard to chase someone down when your pants are still around your ankles, though. Man, I have some fun when my towny cousins come to the farm. Anyway, as we got closer to the wires, he was shouting, literally shouting and swearing at me, telling me to stop it, you idiot! Stop the tractor! He had many colourful names for me too, and I was laughing until I nearly wet myself. He was freaking out, but I kept backing him up. Now he did the most stupid thing that I wasn't expecting him to do. But he jumped off the carrier, and guess what? As he landed on the ground, he had his hand on the tray for support, and then zap! He got the shock. Boy, I laughed until my sides were splitting, but he wasn't. Funny that. Come on, let's finish the story, okay? You can always tell when his ghost was around because, oh, pork! This time Shane only glimpsed around quickly, not so nervous. Because the trees would be creaking in a certain musical rhythm, evenly creaking, creaking, only more rapid than the wind could have made them to creak. I finally finished the story and actually scared Shane, but he wouldn't admit to it though. I saw the terror and the shiftiness in his eyes. Mind you, neither would I, because I'd scare myself too. It was a long time before we clambered into our sleeping bags, and really dark by then. The fire was only smouldering with a few hot embers scattered about. We never did get out for our rabbit hunt. Oh well, we can go early in the morning. No doubt we would be waking up at Sparrow's fart. Hopefully we might have even caught a rabbit in the snare we set up before dinner. Perfect. The sudden spine-tingling chill of the cold sleeping bag lining gushed up our bodies, causing goosebumps to creep all over us. Then after a few moments we were warm and cosy, and having a few giggles. I couldn't stay awake any longer, I was too tired. The tent door flapped and rocked me gently into my favourite place where anything could happen. More pork! Creak, creak, flit, 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 creak, creak, flit, 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 flit. Shane, wake up! What was that? My eyes had sprung open like a mousetrap, only in reverse. The tent door was flapping wildly. Shane! Are you awake?" Suddenly I remembered the moorpork. I didn't think I'd heard the moorpork's call for a while. Shane turned cumbersome in his bag. "Shane, wake up!" I shouted in a hushed whisper. He mumbled. I was shoving him now. "Come on, Shane, wake up!" He replied. Oh, this was hopeless. Finally his eyes opened, painfully slow, flapping reluctantly. "What do you want?" "Did you hear that?" "What?" The sound of distant creaking was piercing the night's eerie symphony. Thunk, 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 thunk. "It's coming down from the graveyard." "Graveyard? What do you mean?" "You know, up the hill above us, where the cows are buried." "Come on, wake up, can't you hear that?" Yeah. Thunk, 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 thunk. He shot bolt upright, definitely awake now. "What the heck is it?" I could have sworn whatever it was would have heard our hearts thumping right out of our chests. The door flapped furiously. Angry, my heart raced like a rock concert. I heard it again. Thunk, 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 thunk. There it is again. I felt trapped inside the walls of the tiny tent. "What do you think it is?" Shane asked quietly, like he didn't really want to be heard. "Maybe it's that man you told us about." His throat obviously constricted and dry. "Shh, don't say that." I could feel my blood pumping wildly through my veins. "But what if it is?" he said as his mouth began to open and close like a suffocating fish. The noise changed slightly and came closer to our tent. The trees still creaked and groaned in the distance. Suddenly the creaking stopped and the thunk, 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 thunk started again. They were coming towards us and definitely sounding like footsteps. Heavy footsteps. However, strange and irregular, as if the man, or whatever it was, had a stagger. We hid right down inside our sleeping bags, lying there waiting for a crazed attack upon our defenceless fort. It was taking forever. What was he doing? We could hear the loud pounding in our chests. Surely this madman could hear it too. I felt like the blood was draining from my face, and I could almost make out Shane's face, pale as a corpse, almost glowing in the dark. Mine must have been shrouded the same. The staggered plodding of heavy feet came closer and closer. It was right outside, now I knew it. We were hopelessly trapped, throats coarse and dry with fear. I reached for my torch. Would that be enough to whack over his head? If he had a head, that is. Was I strong enough to knock him out? Was I prepared to find out? And that is when the plodding stopped. But our hearts went ever faster, almost bursting out of our chests. No matter how still or how quiet we were, we knew that whatever was outside could hear the loud beating of tom-tom drums inside us. "Shane!" I nodded for him to open the tent flap with my head, while I held tight to the torch in my shaky hands. This would have to be my most powerful swing ever. Shane hesitated, which I was glad about anyway. I guessed our only hope would be to yell as loud as we could and freak him out, more than he freaked us out. We hoped. The silence was raging. Its breathing was deep, coarse, and wet. We were stunned and shocked in the tent, minds racing crazy and confused. But then the silence went on again. Then, with a tilt of our heads and a breath of relief, we burst into uncontrollable laughter. It was only one of Mum and Dad's old cows. We felt so stupid, yet strangely pleased. I shot out of my bag, and Shane was close behind. We slowly pulled open the tent door to peek at who she was, and through the crack we saw her. "Rosemary, you scared the crap out of us, girl." She towered above us, her big brown eyes glistened in the moonlight and looking straight at us. I'm sure they were laughing eyes, laughing at our expense. She looked so funny, like a hand puppet had gone wrong, and she wriggled her ears while giving us a gentle moo, as if saying, "Don't worry, boys, I'll stand guard for you tonight." "Rosemary, you really had us worried," I said in a timid voice. She was only a cow, but with her looking after us that night we felt safe. And after that we crawled back into our tent, laughing our heads off. The end. Graveyard Hill, written and narrated by Ian King.